Hello, this is Erica Pickett, Director of Business Services for the Stoughton Area School District. Over the past couple of weeks, a number of focus groups were held regarding the educator compensation plan that the committee is currently discussing. During these meetings, a number of questions have come up regarding base and supplemental pay. The committee agreed that sending out some clarification would be helpful. I will start with some history dating back to 2012. When Act 10 was enacted, the law changed in regards to the way educator compensation is calculated and the way increases are allowed to be bargained. The law only permits unions and boards to bargain an increase on base wage. When Act 10 passed, the Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission, or WERC, created an emergency rule defining the way districts should calculate base wage increases. That rule essentially looked at each educator's placement on the traditional salary schedule and then defined his or her base wage by moving him or her back to the BA+0 lane unless that person's certification required a master's degree. For example, library media specialists. People in those specific positions moved back to the MA+0 lane. The difference between the amount identified as base wage and each educator's actual contract pay was identified as supplemental pay. On the screen you see an example of what a traditional salary schedule looked like when Act 10 passed. To demonstrate the WERC's emergency rule, we will assume an elementary classroom educator had 7 years of experience and a master's degree plus 12 credits. Using this chart, the educator's total salary was $45,155. Of that amount, $39,994 was considered base, again using the MA+12 Step 7 amount, and $5,161 was supplemental. The sum of those two equal the $45,155. When the WERC rule expired on September 12, 2012, the board and SEA agreed to set base wage at each educator's total salary. They did not use that emergency rule. Since that point in time, the board has bargained a base wage increase. The law allows bargaining for the amount and distribution of only a base wage increase. That amount is capped by the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. The maximum amount available is determined by calculating the total base wage for all educators the previous year and multiplying that total by the CPI. The board and SEA can bargain the total increase in distribution not to exceed this amount. Our board has chosen to provide additional increases to educators every year on top of that bargain base wage increase. This increase is categorized as supplemental pay. Because our board has given supplemental pay, each educator's total contract pay is the sum of both salary components, base wage and supplemental wage. We need to track these two pieces separately to ensure we aren't violating the law when it comes to bargaining. If our board was not providing supplemental increases each year, each educator's total pay would equal his or her base pay due to the initial agreed upon determination of base pay. Going back to our original example, we can show how SASD calculated base pay and what it looks like moving forward. After the WERC rule expired, the SEA and board agreed to set educators' beginning base wage for 2012-13 at their actual salary instead of using the expired method like many other districts did. Our district chose the approach that was most favorable for educators. This set a higher base wage for our educators for future bargainable increases. Our fictional educator would have had her starting base wage set at $45,155 in 2012-13. Using what has occurred each year through the bargaining process in Stoughton, the following increases would have been distributed as follows. You can see from the chart on your screen that every year since 2012-13, there has been a bargain base wage increase, and then in addition to that, the board has given a supplemental increase. You can see the progression of the base and the supplemental increases for our educator and how that then relates to that person's total contract pay. As we move forward, regardless of the compensation plan framework that we use, we need to comply with the law around base wages. There will always be the existing split between base and supplemental pay. Last but not least, we also heard some concern in those focus groups that supplemental pay is not subject to the Wisconsin retirement system. This is not true. All educator wages are part of WRS. Each year, everyone receives a statement from WRS showing the wages for the year. Included in those wages are both base and supplemental pay, as well as any additional compensation that an educator may receive throughout the year. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to call or email me at any time.